It's no secret at this point that a lot of gamers that normally play multiplayer games have been complaining how they've been so sweaty for the past few years to the point where some people are quitting multiplayer games completely. Now, I actually support that decision. I always tell people, if you don't truly enjoy playing a game whatsoever anymore, stop playing it. Because if you keep playing a game you don't enjoy, you'll only ruin the gaming experience for yourself. But some may ask why or how did we get to this point to begin with? So I decided to think about why games are so sweaty these days. As I was making this list, I noticed everything I'm going to talk about was linked to one concept: time. Time is everyone's enemy. It affects people, your jobs, relationships, and in this case, video games. While gaming has gotten better quality-wise over the past few decades, there are a few things that time has done that may have negatively affected the multiplayer experience for some people. The first topic I want to talk about is social media. I'm going to be using a term called the golden years of online gaming throughout this video. This is the time period of 2007 through 2012 where games like Modern Warfare 2 and Halo 3 were taking the gaming world by storm. At least here in the States. But during that time, social media, YouTube, and Twitch were either still in their infancy or non-existent. So back then, we didn't have these free guides ready to watch with a simple Google search. The only guides you would get were these books that cost around $10 to $30, which were kind of a scam now that I think about it, or you would have a friend that was naturally good at the game to tell you what to do. Now with YouTube and Twitch existing and social media platforms giving detailed guides on how to properly play the game at your best, now you're seeing a lot more players that actually know what they're doing. Those platforms have also been shining the light on content creation, streaming, and professional gaming, giving more reasons for players to look at these guides. Which goes into my next topic, the average gamer, and how they've improved over the past few decades. Back in the golden years of online gaming, everyone was still fairly new to the concept of playing with other people through the internet. Games like Halo 3, Modern Warfare 2, and games released during that time along with them were most people's first experience with playing multiplayer lobbies, and since this was still a fairly new concept at the time, most people were pretty awful at online games. The average gamer back then was a kid picking up a controller, setting up a class that looked cool, and ran around like a headless chicken pressing the trigger. If you're someone that actually took the time to learn the game, to read the stats of the weapons, and what each perk did, you were simply leagues above those that didn't. We've been playing these games for over 2 decades, and now pretty much everyone does this, meaning your average gamer now actually knows how to take cover, how each weapon works, how spawns work, the map layouts, what headshot damage is, how to wallbang players, which makes veterans feel like every game is sweaty, when in reality, everyone else just caught up to them. The third topic is nostalgia, as it is one hell of a drug. It helps us remember the good times we had with an activity while helping us ignore the bad of it. Whenever I read tweets or comments here on YouTube talking about the golden days of online gaming, I often hear how gaming was a very casual experience and no one was a sweaty tryhard. To that I say, no, you're fucking insane if you believe that. There were plenty of sweats back in the day that would abuse every mechanic to get the easiest win possible. I often hear this among Call of Duty and Halo players who are often the ones high on the nostalgia drug, because when I was a wee little child, I remember Call of Duty and sometimes Halo being a game where you were either the puncher or the punching bag, which isn't necessarily a bad thing as it does get people to get better at a game, but people often claim that everyone had fun this way when no, it was only fun for those on the giving end. The receiving end was often stuck in a spawn die loop waiting for their chance to even walk out of spawn due to how the score streaks worked. Another common complaint is that esports was the one that ruined multiplayer games since it created a culture of people wanting to play to win. But I argue that the invention of online multiplayer already did that. Creating an activity that involves winning an objective against other people, regardless of what the objective is, breeds competition. And I don't know how many people know this, but esports has been around a lot longer than most people think. The east side of the world has basically accepted esports as a part of their culture, even having prime ministers visit esports teams, which is probably why they're so good against North Americans, because here in North America, we're still playing catch up, barely getting into the spotlight in the 2010s. But due to the popularity in esports rising so quickly, people assume it was forced onto us, when in reality, we're the ones behind. And even back then, there were plenty of big tournaments with the older games we all praise true esports OGs can tell you all about. Esports definitely made more people sweaty, as a lot of people these days have the fantasy of being a pro gamer and want to play exactly like them, but it didn't ruin gaming, as again, this is what happens when you create competitive games. Esports just gives these players an opportunity to turn it into something more. And while we're on the topic of nostalgia, let's get into the last topic, growing up. I'm sure most of you watching this started playing games when you were either a kid or a teenager. If you didn't have strict paranoid parents like mine, you were probably able to play games for hours on end with your buddies late into the night, making fond memories you can probably remember to this day. Most of you guys are either hitting adulthood or are already in it. Now we're dealing with what happens with adulthood. College, a job, kids if you're out of your mind. We now have to deal with all these new responsibilities, meaning we don't have as much time to play our favorite games anymore. Which is fine, that's something we should all expect, but the problems come in when gamers come home from a stressful day of school or work expecting the same experience they had when they were a kid without putting any effort in. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but those days are over. I'm not saying you can never have those experiences ever again. There's just a lot more you have to do in order to get to that experience. It's no longer just being able to join a game and destroy Christmas noobs in June. Now you have to dedicate some time into learning maps, weapons, movement, or what your character does depending on the game. It really doesn't take a lot to learn a game, especially if it's something simple like Call of Duty. But for those that are very restricted on time, barely able to put in an hour or two during the weekends, this could be a problem since not only can you not dedicate as much time as you did before when you were a kid, now you're facing the next generation of gamers that don't have the responsibilities you have right now, or adults that don't have stressful jobs or are able to retain information better than you can. Meaning, while your opponents may seem like sweaty tryhards, they're probably just chilling on the couch like you are, but you just lack the time and experience these guys have, which is where a system like skill-based matchmaking comes in. Contrary to popular belief, skill-based matchmaking didn't create sweats. The sweats were always there. The whole point of skill-based matchmaking was to counter the issue of people complaining about sweaty tryhards by pairing players with other players with a similar skill level. The problem is, people don't want balanced games. They want to go back to the good old days of pub stopping 12-year-olds without even trying, and skill-based matchmaking allows the exact opposite. What's funny is that a lot of people want to get rid of skill-based matchmaking, but then start suggesting systems that would balance the game based on their KD ratios and win-loss ratios. Like this comment right here suggesting a brilliant balancing system to hopefully get rid of sweaty tryhards. If you read closely, this guy is basically describing skill-based matchmaking, and everyone hates it already. I don't mean to knock on the guy, his comment just shows that some people don't fully understand what skill-based matchmaking is and what they actually want out of their games. And if the solution people ask for only makes the game worse, I don't know what else could be done. Unfortunately, there may never be a solution that will make games not sweaty, as asking people to not be sweaty is like asking you to not play casually. It's just not gonna happen, as no one likes to be told how to play a game. My only realistic solution, in my opinion, is for gamers to adjust their expectations, as I truly believe this is more of a people issue than a gaming issue. Obviously, developers can help reduce the issue by adding a ranked mode for games that don't have it already, and by toning down modern skill-based matchmaking with the addition of a custom games browser, but until we can get our hands on technology that could read people's minds and pair players based on a person's intentions, you're bound to bump into sweaty tryhards no matter what. We also have to accept that we may not be as good as we think we are, or at least as we once were. I often read complaints that start with, "I consider myself to be an average gamer." Well, what makes you say that? Is it your headshot percentage, your KD ratio, your win-loss ratio, the amount of time you put into the game? Is there some kind of rulebook that defines the average gamer that I don't know about? The only way you could somewhat accurately pinpoint your skill level is by playing ranked and seeing which rank you fall under. But people don't want to do that since ranked is too sweaty for them, and not every game offers a ranked mode. Without some kind of objective data telling you that you're an average player, you can't claim that you're an average player, because without some kind of ranking system, being an average player is subjective, meaning that you could say you're an average player, but compared to everyone else, you're a complete noob. It is unfortunate that many people aren't enjoying multiplayer games as they once did before, and as much as I want people to enjoy multiplayer games as much as I do, there's only so much you could do before there's nothing you can do. I can suggest some things to hopefully revive or retain your enjoyment for multiplayer games, but that's for another video. If you want to see that, give this video a rating, leave a comment, subscribe for more content, and I'll talk to you all later.